Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, friends, it feels good to be back. You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio for the first time in 8 months. Big thanks to Emerald Rangers for bringing us back. The Patreon has relaunched. We're doing this thing weekly. It's happening. Let's kick things off with a chiptune. Your boys at Battle of the Bits, they had the shop themes competition. Let's check it out. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. More when we come back. Alright, I haven't done this in a while, so I'm going to be honest. It feels a little awkward. It really does. But I can tell you that whenever I take a break from podcasting, there's always like a reluctancy to get back on the air. But then once I'm back, then it all comes out and it feels great. So I'm just going to force it. So I wrote up some notes. And we're going to talk a little bit about, well, some things that happened while I was out. First of all, I kept seeing things, and I was like, you know what? When I go back on the air, I want to talk about that. And the big one that sticks out to me is Super Bomberman R Online closes in December. And I don't know if I talked about this at the tail end of the podcast or not. I feel like I feel like not. But that is a relatively new game. That's the Battle Royale Bomberman game. It was free. And I think it was Swingle who talked to me about this. Was saying Bomberman it's a game you play for a little while and you kind of get your fill, and I get that. But this was a really good game, and it's going offline, and that's a big bummer. So if you want to do that Bomberman Battle Royale, as far as I know, I haven't played it in a while. You still got about 2 months to do it. So yeah, It's a great time. As far as I know, I had considered that the de facto PC Bomberman experience, but I might be wrong about that. I think there's also like a vanilla, like Bomberman R game that I don't have. Bomberman is a game that I wanted to come to the PC for a long time. Back when I was still going to MagFest every year, I wanted Bomberman on my computer, because I'd bring my computer every year, and every year, NG and I, you be quiet. Every year, NG and I would, fire up my PC, back in whatever room we stayed in, and we would play games, and oftentimes it was fighting games and whatnot, but I thought Bomberman was a perfect fit, so I kept my eyes peeled for Bomberman to drop on Steam for a long time, and for a long time it was absent. So when this Battle Royale game came out, it wasn't just Bomberman Battle Royale. For me, it was, Bomberman finally hit Steam. And I'm thinking now that there's another one, so I'm going to check that out real quick while I'm on the air. Bomberman, are you on Steam, Bomberman? Okay, so Super Bomberman R Online is free to play, and Super Bomberman R is $40. And then there's a Super Bomberman R2, which is coming in 2023. Okay, $40 is a little bit much, but looks like I got a couple of friends who own the game. And again, what better party game than Bomberman? And I have kids. Bomberman is a great party game for kids. If you really want to teach your children the value of suffering, play Bomberman with them. It's a good way to teach kids about the harsh realities of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and early death in an 8-person match. So it's a little bit of grim news that it's going away. But it is what it is. It was not a perfect game. There was no way for you and a group of friends to play in a public match, which I guess makes sense, because then ghosting would be a huge, huge issue. But I just know that my group of friends, over at the Mondo Roundverse, etc., and Friends Incorporated, and when this came out, we looked at it and we were like, how do we play it together? No one knew how, and then we left it alone as a group and never touched it again. So that's Bomberman. I tried a couple of games that had been talked about on the air while I was away. Slay the Spire was one. Slay the Spire was a game that was recommended pretty heavily. Hemrock was a big advocate of Slay the Spire, and I watched it for a long time, but it wasn't going. It never quite got as cheap as I wanted it to. It regularly sells for $25, and I think it would go down to like $12 or $13. Well, I finally bit the bullet, and I bought it, and I played it, and I gotta say, I was not taken, and this kind of shocks me a little bit for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's an overwhelmingly positive marked game, and I know Steam does all kinds of things to sway their review curve. But for the most part, if it's universally well liked, it's at least going to be, I'll at least see why it's overwhelmingly positive. On top of that, this was recommended to me by Hemrock. Hemrock recommends things, but you got to understand, he was the first time I'd ever seen Minecraft was a YouTube recommendation from Hemrock. Never heard of it, didn't know what it was. Same thing with DayZ. Same thing with Anamanaguchi, which led me into chiptunes, right? And now how deeply ingrained is chiptunes in what I do. I buy the albums off of Battle of the Bits to support them, and I play them for my kids, and we all have little dance parties at night. All that started with Hemrock saying, hey man, here's Anamanaguchi. They got a link over at this site, and it turned out to be 8-Bit Peoples, which was full of free albums at the time. And then it just kind of went from there. So when he was recommending Slay the Spire, I kind of knew. It was like, all right, let's see what's happening. So we have this card-based battler game, and, it's pretty cool, but I don't know. It didn't take me. Like I have the Steam listing up now, and I put 2.4 hours into it. And after that, I was kind of done. Fun little game. And oh, by the way, it also has the workshop, which is generally when I'm, picking out games on Steam. If your game has the workshop and I can get mods for it, like, right from the Steam page, that's always a big plus. That's a big plus. And this has that. But yeah, I don't know. I would like to try this again on a Let's Play. Because there have been games in the past where I just got to give them a try. Got to put some more time into it, and then it hits, and then I can't get enough. But for the most part, I wanted to experience it. I wanted to see what the fuss was. I've seen copycat games too, so it's definitely has had its fair share of influence in the video game world. But that's Slay the Spire, which, by the way, according to the Steam page, January 2019. So that's 19, 20, 21, 22. It's almost a 4-year-old game. Yeah, that'd be 4 years old. If I have my basic first grade math correct. So that's really awesome that I got to play that. Because even though I wasn't taken with it, I checked that box. Do you know what I mean? It was something that was on my to-do list for a long time. Finally did it. If you have played the game and you think differently, do let me know. Some other stuff that I played while I was away. I got back into Rust for a little while. I found a little group of people. We played like 2 or 3 times. McNuggies over on the forums. He was one of the Rust boys. That's how I met him. And from there, we moved on to a game called Raft, which was a recommendation from McNuggies. Raft is another survival game, but instead of being in the countryside, you're in the middle of the ocean collecting garbage and crafting things from it. And I bought that like on a whim. He was like, dude, buy it. It's good. And I was like, okay, that's all I need. Let's go. And then I bought it. Even on sale, it was like $11 or something. And I played it. I was like, oh, you're right. You're right. On paper, it doesn't sound good. You're collecting trash with a hook to build out your raft. Turned out to be really good. Running from sharks and finding islands and building things up. And I don't know, it was a good time. So that was Raft. A couple other things that I found that I was interested in. There's a little like not vaporware, but like shovelware game that caught my eye called Reading Simulator. Is it a good game? No. Should you try it? Probably not. But here was the premise. It's like a $1 game on Steam, and they built a little Unity chill out space, just like a one-room Unity first-person game, like walking simulator type thing. And the idea is that the room is a library, and it's full of actual books that you can open, and they're actual books. And they used presumably text from like the Gutenberg Project, where you can download old public domain novels, and they populated it that way. So if you don't mind using this cumbersome interface, you can read through 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or Dracula. That's what I was thinking. Like I was thinking of Dracula, but I couldn't quite get it. A lot of those old classic novels, and I honestly think it's a really cool idea, but the execution, I don't know. Yeah, execution was bad. I'm gonna come out and say it. It's very bad. But I loved the concept of here's a full book, and it's in the game. Okay, so I was thinking, how would I like to see this implemented better? And then it occurred to me, what's another game that has books in it that you can read? Morrowind. And Morrowind has a level builder, a construction kit rather. I looked a little bit into modding Morrowind because I wanted to try and build a library filled with custom books and do the same thing, but instead of making a cheap game on Steam, make a free mod on Morrowind. I didn't get very far because I tried to install the construction set, and I was watching tutorials. and it wouldn't install properly. Things were happening, it wasn't working. And in the end, it turned out to be, like, I could do it if it was a passion project, but it was just like a whim thing. I don't know. But after playing Morrowind for all these years, I gave modding a little shot. Gave it a little shot, you know? So I'm able to confirm that you can still download the construction kit. And I don't know, presumably you can make it work, but I wasn't able to. Mods are still coming out from Morrowind, so somebody's making it work. What are you going to do? How are we doing? I want to break this up a little bit. Okay, 11 minutes in. I can finish my list, and then we'll play another chiptune. Some other things I tried. There was a game called Axis Football that's been on my wish list for several years. I finally got a hold of Axis Football and tried it. John Madden Football for the consoles, basically like that, but developed for PC, optimized for PC users, designed to be played with a mouse and keyboard. So if you like football, can't recommend Axis Football enough. And one of the things I wanted to bring up was if you ever play like Madden Football, when you're running a pass play, typically the way these games work on a console is the quarterback steps back, and when you're ready to make the pass, a prompt will show up, and you'll have 3 or 4 or more receivers, and each one will be assigned a button, and you'll see those buttons running around on the screen. So you got, if you want to throw right, maybe you'll press circle, and you'll see the circle, whatever. But Axis Football, because it's a PC and it's designed for mouse and keyboard, the way it does it is the receivers will go left and right and whatever, and they'll have circles on them. And if you want to hit that receiver, you got to zero in on him with your mouse and really aim and hit it. And when I was playing this game, up until that point, I was like, okay, it's Madden Football, unlicensed Madden Football. That works. It's nice. But making that pass play in Axis Football felt way more real than Madden ever did on a console. And that shocked me, because you talk about a football game being more realistic than John Madden Football. Yeah, that's, say what you will about sports games and Madden and their weird legacy of putting out the same game over year after year for a decade. It's hard to get more football-y than Madden Football. You can quote me on that. Put that on a t-shirt. But yeah, hey, that was the thing. Axis Football. And one of the things I love about Axis Football is that they haven't been removing their old versions. Let me look this up on Steam because I want to see how they're doing it. Unlike some of the other games that do one every year, if you look them up, football, not flute ball. Football. Yeah, I can't spell and talk at the same time. I have a hard enough time spelling as it is. Yeah, they've got all the old ones. They're still there. Axis Football 2016 is $5. 2015 is $4. I have that one. I like 2020, though. That's the one I've been playing. Yeah. So, that was cool. I'm not much of a sports guy. I'm really not. But I like... you know what? To be honest, the fact that it's unlicensed, I think, makes me like it more. Because instead of having the traditional NFL teams, it's, made-up teams that look kind of similar, but not quite. Which is what we have in Washington now. Because I grew up a Redskins fan, and the Redskins are now defunct. So that's Axis Football. I hope somebody makes an XFL mod for it, because I loved the XFL in the 1 year of their return. What else I have on my list of stuff I've been up to? Making my dream game happen, which I'm going to get to in a second. And a little bit about roguelikes. What's the other thing I'm missing? Oh, yeah. Okay. I was big into a game called Wrestling Spirit 3. Not a whole lot I can say about that, but it's a stat-based text game, and I liked the concept that you could take a JPEG, of whatever, add it to the game, and then you could assign a personality to that JPEG and stats to that JPEG, and then play with it. And thus you could recreate people and whatever in this little text-based wrestling game, and I got really into it. I picked up the key for 50 cents. I think it's $20 regular price though. And I put 50 hours into it over the course of a few weeks, which for me is an incredible amount. It's the weirdest game I think I've been into in a long time, and it's called Wrestling Spirit 3. And I had this moment just 2 nights ago where I got on Discord and I was talking to Dorobka and Alex Swingle, and I hadn't talked to those guys in several weeks. And I got out Wrestling Spirit 3, and I was like, hey, take a look. And I was playing it on camera, and I had my copy of Dorobka, who's in the game. He was fighting. Who was he fighting? Tony Storm, I think one of the AEW Women's Champion. And while I was playing it, it occurred to me, wow, this is terrible to look at. And yeah, I had this really weird moment where it's like, I love this game to death, but there is really nothing to see here. So that was kind of funny. That's something I don't know how I'm going to deal with that, like how I'm going to handle it, because it's a game I got into a ton, and I went from there into a very similar game called Total Extreme Wrestling 2013, which is the very same kind of thing, but instead of being a fighting game, you're using the characters you create to like to book a wrestling company. So you're booking matches and that sort of thing. Awesome games, but very, very terrible to look at. I liked it to the point where I went to the company that makes it. They run Grey Dog Software. They have an old style website with an old style forum, and I got involved in their forum, and I started working on a couple of mods. So that's those games. I'll probably talk about them in the future somehow. But I discovered those while TCR was off the air. Last couple nights, I got back into roguelikes. I think that exploded just last night, actually, in my downtime. One of the games I got while I was off the air was a game called Adam, ADOM, which is a roguelike game that's like 20 years old. They gave it a nice fancy tile set and released it on Steam for $15 at some point. And that's another one where key sites will sell the key for 50 cents. I didn't know that, though. I paid full price for it. Then I saw the 50-cent key and I got really mad. But I played that. I played Angband last night. I discovered that somewhere along the line, NetHack was released on Steam, but not by the actual development team. So don't buy the Steam version of NetHack. Yeah, so I played those last night, and I want to see if I can like get on the dev team for an Angband variant. Not the actual game, but like maybe I can find somebody who's working on a forked version. And I want to work on doing some small coding projects for an existing project. Because if you go out and get a job as a programmer, that's what you're doing. You know, you're running change requests for a piece of software that already functions and already exists and already has, a core infrastructure in place. And that's how you get your feet wet. You don't really start by making something from scratch. That's something that's unique to the video game world. So if I were to get into making games from scratch, I think that's the way to do it. So I got my GitHub account and dusted it off and made sure it worked. And that's as far as I got. From there, I decided to play Angband because I was having all these thoughts in the middle of the night when I was like, I'm too tired to get into hardcore programming, but let's touch the product a little bit so I can stay on fire for it. Started playing Angband. Good game. If you're not into programming at all, that's cool, but I would suggest some of the stuff that comes out of the roguelike people is pretty incredible. Pretty incredible and pretty like very seldom played. Like there was a game that I got into the last time I had an interest in roguelikes called Steam Sky. No relation to the gaming platforms. It's like a steampunk roguelike where instead of wandering around in a dungeon, you actually have a ship that you have to maintenance. And you're going from like base to base, planet to planet or whatever. And you're running missions or engaging in trade and that sort of thing. Steam Sky. Really good game. Free, also. Excuse me. And then we come to my dream game, which is what I was working on last night. No, I wasn't working on it last night. I watched some videos, and this is what was swirling around in my head when I was trying to sleep after working late. I think I'm sure I talked about this before, but I want to make... There's a video of a guy who uses Godot to build a text adventure, like an old-style Zork-type text adventure. And that's kind of what I want to do. But here's the thing. There's a lot of builders out there you can use to make text adventures. One that I tried that I would very much recommend is called Adrift. And that's free. You can build, very large games in there. It's great. The only thing is, you can't make a standalone Adrift game. So that kind of turned me off to it a little bit. But also, my dream game, it wouldn't just be a text adventure. It would play like a MUD, all right? And here's what I mean. If you play Zork, or if you play, Enchanter, or any of those old school text adventure games, they play like point-and-click adventure games, I want to have a text-based game that plays more like a MUD, in that I want it to be a role-playing game with stats and with combat and encounters and that sort of stuff, but all text-based. And because of that, you'd be able to make it very, very large in size. And that's another thing that turned me off to a lot of the text adventure, like construction kit type things, is there's usually a cap on the number of rooms that you can have. And if you sign on to any MUD, the ones that have been around for a long time, what's the thing that they always say first? 20,000 rooms for you to explore. So many rooms. Because they keep adding and adding and adding as time goes on. That's what I want to do. I want to get an infrastructure set up that's mostly text-based. I say mostly because I'll have like a little mini map in the upper right-hand corner that I can add rooms and stuff to over time. And yeah, apparently you can do that in Godot without too much trouble. I reached a point where I was considering like hiring a contractor to try and build the infrastructure for me. Which, as it turns out, it wouldn't be that expensive to do. I could probably hire somebody for like $100 to build a working game with like a couple of rooms where I could add and build from there. And I gotta say, that might be worth it for me, because I'm almost 40, and I'm a couple years away from 40 years old, and I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool to build something from scratch. Especially when I hear stories about like Angband, where the people who originally made the Angband game, they're long gone. The one they started working on it in the 80s when they were in school, and a couple years later they passed on the project to someone else, and it passed on to someone else, and then to someone else, and that's why it's been around for so long. I think that's it's an attractive idea. I don't think one of the things that separates that from today is because today everybody has their own game. Everybody who's interested in making games is making their own games. So you can't. There would be nobody to pass it on to. Also, I think development won't only last as long as Godot lasts if I build it in Godot, which means it would make more sense to build it like from scratch, have somebody make it and like make an engine in like C++ that I could add to or something. But I don't know. I was thinking about that last night, and I came to the realization that like that's something that I think it's time to start putting some time, effort, and money into, is to making something like that happen. Because I love these old games, and I love them. I would like to make one myself, and it would be free in the end. Whatever I made, whatever gets released, would just be, this is a free thing. Free thing. I mean, we know people who can do great things. We've got, even within our little circle of this podcast, we've got artists, we've got people who understand how computers work, we've got multiple people who make music. You know, there's talented people in our group, and there's talented people near outside of our group that, you know, I could reach out to for help. So that's something. I have it in my notes. I would like to make slow progress as time moves on. That's my dream game that does not have a name. It just has a faint concept of how it should play and some of the things that should happen. And I will update you as that moves on. But for now, this being my first actual recording session back, we're gonna check out some chiptunes. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio for the first time in 8 months. Stick around. Back again on Tiger Claw Radio. Sip of tea for TCR being back on the air. Alright, so I've acquired an item while TCR was off the air. Whoa, hang on. Clearly that item was not better microphone equipment. But anyway, so handhelds, that was a thing that I was interested in. The emulation handheld scene. I acquired an Anbernic RG351P. It's one of the ones that has, dual sticks. It's a little bit more powerful, a little bit bigger, but not by much than the ones I have been using. And I started messing with that. And in terms of power, beautiful machine. Couldn't be better. But the earphone jack broke inside of a week, which sucked because I was playing Dragon Warrior 7 on the PlayStation. I was playing that at night with the headphones on, lying in bed, just doing a little grind and getting through the story a little bit at a time. And then the earphones broke, and I like to play it in bed at night. So yeah, that was a big bummer when that happened. On top of that, this was a machine that, I chose this one because supposedly it had Wi-Fi that was built in, and they scrapped that at some point because this definitely doesn't. It has a dongle, and that works, so you can get on the Wi-Fi, but you have to have this big piece hanging off of it. So, good machine, but not at all what I thought it was going to be. Anyway, so over the last couple days, I've been fooling with it, and I successfully got Easy RPG running. What does that mean? That means I can port RPG Maker 2000 and RPG Maker 2003 games to my Ambernic, and that is awesome because one of the things I think these machines really, really need is a way to play stuff on them that is, actually legal to play. So I'm looking forward to going to a couple of websites and downloading some old RM2K and RM2K3 games and loading them up on my Ambernic. I think that might be a lot of fun. Highly recommend it, but I gotta say the 351P, the one I got, the next stage up, the 351M, which is the same one but metal, was only an extra like $10, and supposedly that one doesn't have the same issues with the earphone jack. So highly recommend the 351M, not the P that I got. But anyway, so yeah, so Easy RPG, so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool to play old RPG Maker projects. I even got a project running on it that was made with the old Don Miguel version of RPG Maker 2000. What that means is, like, prior to RPG Maker being on Steam, like years ago, there was a pirate version available of RPG Maker 2000, and it was fan translated, so it didn't work very well. And now that RPG Maker 2000 is available, like, legally, if you have a project from the old one, there's a lot of trouble porting it to the new one, even though it's, the same engine, the same kind of software and stuff. A lot of problems. But didn't seem to have any problems playing on this thing. Which is cool, because I have an archive of, games that me and Engie made from, 20 plus years ago. So now I get to relive those on my Ambernic, which is a lot of fun. The reason I bought this thing was because I wanted something special for surviving September at work. So now that September's over, I want to use it some, and enjoy my video gaming prize, as it were. So I played all the way through River City Ransom, probably about a week ago now. And that was a good time. But they have a new, what exactly do they call that? There's a new River City Ransom game out on Steam. Let me dig up the title. It was like River City Saga, I think it was called. River City Saga? Yeah, River City Saga, Three Kingdoms. And it's more, I don't know. They're in robes. I'll say that much. They're in robes, and it's an Arc System Works game. So I imagine it's going to play a lot more like, what is it, the Battle Royale game, the River City, Melee Mock and that kind of thing. It looks really cool. $30. Haven't bought it yet, but that's a thing. It looks really cool. That's on my wish list. Yeah. And they also made a sequel to River City Girls, like River City Girls 0, which, to be honest, I think that one looks a little bit more like Renegade or Double Dragon. Like, that one doesn't really look like River City Ransom. It's kind of cool, don't get me wrong. Alright, boys, so around this time in the show is usually when I do the fail bag. However, being back for the first time in 8 months, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. But you know what? Let's take a quick look at the last episode. Alright, give me a second here. Oh, it was 6 months ago, not 8. I don't know. Desm101 says, I have a repro for Splatterhouse 3 with a box, and it looks really great. I keep a sticker on it to indicate that it's a repro. I also have an additional original Grindstormer cart, but the board is fried. Crappy Tengen cart, and I'm planning to use a donor cart, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge, to transplant the ROM into. How did that go, by the way? Did you ever get that done? Yeah, expensive games, man. Just get a repro. Just get a repro, or if the companies find a way for us to, get a hold of them in a reasonable way, then do that. Repros all the way, bro. All of the day, bro. For sure. Well, I'll tell you what. One more time before we go, why don't we return to the shop themes competition, because I think there was another track that was really good that I want to play on the air. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Very well done to Battle of the Bits. They did a really good job on that competition. A lot of good tracks came through on that one. That particular song was from Coda, C-O-D-A. The name of the track was No Fear Vape Juice and... What is it? No Fear Vape Juice and Console Repairs. Love it. All right, then. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the return of Tiger Claw Radio. Catch the new episodes on Emerald Rangers. Also, consider stopping by the Patreon and helping us stick around for a whole lot longer. Whatever you're doing, whatever it is you're dealing with in your life, whatever you're trying to overcome, I want you to know that I'm wishing you all the best in the world. Keep at it. I'll see you next week.